But in conclusion, it shouldn't be this battle of union and non-union welder. It's so miserable to see. Nobody's better than anybody. I don't think now that I'm in the 798 that I'm better than all my buddies that are on the other side of the fence. There's way more non-union welders. If y'all wanted the wages to change, y'all could get the wages changed on the non-union side. But they're going to keep their, so to speak, foot on their knee on your neck and expect more and more and more because we keep allowing more and more to be taken. Once it's taken from you, it's not coming back. I just want to see people get paid what you're worth, because I know guys that are way better welders than me that have given way more to their career than what I have so far. And I just want people to succeed. It's not a non-union union issue. It's people have gotten so accustomed to one thing that they've just let it be that way. I'm not naming no names or dropping any contractors, but we all know that there's some out there that they ain't as good as they was 5, 6, 7 years ago. They're not. I mean, they're still paying the same money, but welders are held to such a freaking high standard. This what pisses me off. We're rig welders, pipeline rig welders, not this alt left bullshit or whatever. These pipe fitters and stuff calling themselves pipeliners. You're not a pipeliner. There's the true pipeliner is the rig welder. The helpers, the operators, the inspection that weld and are on right of ways, natural oil or natural gas and oil. That's a pipeline. Yeah, I understand that people lay water pipe and it's a pipeline. That's not the pipeline. The pipeline has crude or oil and natural gas in it. That's pipelining, all right? And welders are held to such a high standard more than anybody else. And I'm not talking for the operators. I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm talking about rig welders and helpers at this point. Rig welders, every single weld we make is x-rayed. All right? So even when we weld test heads and pull heads now, all of a sudden they got to be x-rayed. All right? Like when a long time ago, our helpers used to weld that shit. When I was a helper, I welded on pull heads. Now they're x-ray, helpers can't weld them. How do we make more welders if they don't get real under the hood experience? Because you can only be in the, when I was a helper, welding a test head on was the first x-ray that I ever got, and I tried to make it 100%. But I know that we get the trailer park experience, practice, and all that. But, that when I was being a helper, that's how we got that real experience, was welding on test heads and stuff. It baffles me that guys are okay with this, with our standard continuing to rise. Our insurances went up, hotels, campgrounds, everything has risen besides the wages. And I just don't understand how a guy can sit here and realize that you're being held to the highest standard that there is as far as pipelining or welding in general. For 95% of it, pipeline welders are held to the highest standard all the time. And you're okay with the wages being the same as they've been for the last 20 years, just about. And then let's talk about this. So-and-so company tested helpers to run shacks. That's how easy that shit is. And not to mention that it's a different x-ray code than what we're accustomed to anyways. So it's like it's way more lenient. I don't understand. And then it's just another way to diminish the wage. All right. That's what I know. That's what I'm understanding from it. It's just another way to water down pipelining in general. I can't stand them automatics. I don't care what anybody says. They might be quicker, but I've seen plenty of extra busted welds and all that shit with not busted welds, but busted x-rays with that bug. And I just don't think it's quicker. It's just another way to water down and diminish the pipeline. All right. Because the real important welds, the tie-ins and stuff, are still done with the guy's right arm or left arm. And it's weird. Which, for one reason, going back to why I had podcast, because I've been on this rant here lately. I just cannot stand what this industry is becoming. I mean, I can't imagine how a guy that's been welding 25, 30 years feels about it. It's the backstabbing and the bullshit that it just takes to be a rig welder made me think that it wasn't worth it anymore. So it's got to be that way for all the old heads out here freaking still chugging along. I can't even imagine what they think about it, feeling just left out. And let me say this, just because you go to West Texas, and I'm not diminishing West Texas, because I broke out in West Texas and I made a lot of welds in West Texas and New Mexico. All right. But the standard that's out there when it's booming is not the standard for the rest of the world, the rest of the country. I promise you. The welding test, everything about how you go about your business is not the same in West Texas. All right. So with that being said, just because you run out here and put yourself in 30 or 40 or $150,000 debt, don't make you a pipeliner. All right. That means that when you buy all this fancy shit and the times change, because they always change, somebody's going to get that shit for free or cheap, So I'm not saying don't have good quality equipment. I'm not saying that by no means. I'm just saying, you need to find a way to save some money, because just as quick as that switch comes on, that switch goes off. All right. And I've never had, this is last year, I never had more phone calls about guys looking for work and texts and snaps when it was kind of picking up pretty good, but these companies was testing helpers because they can control a helper's mind. If you take a 21-year-old kid that's decent at welding and shuffle him through a welding test, all right, you're a weld boss in a company as a whole is going to get over on him way more than they are a guy that's been welding 8, 9, 10 years. I say that. I don't know. A lot of us got kind of a flaky back about us here, and I don't understand that. Why you are held to such a high standard, but yet you don't want to have a backbone when it's real time. When you should have a backbone and a leg to stand on. Because let me tell y'all something. Whether you believe it or not, they can't do any of this without the rig welder. All right? They can fuse all the poly they want to together. There's still going to be someplace that's got to be done. All right? They can't lay pipelines without a rig welder. I guess they can. They do it with automatics. But what I'm saying is that nothing gets done without a welder on the pipeline. All right? Starts and ends with welders. And it's just the standard that we're held to is not going anywhere. It's only going to get worse, So with that being said, there's more podcasts coming, and my mindset hadn't changed. I've been spewing this stuff for the last year before I even joined the 798, and there's a lot of great jobs coming up. What I'm hearing, and I hope that people kind of fight a little bit more hesitant to go take that 38, 16, and 100 job. I know we all got to work and we all got families and this, and we want this, and we got stuff to provide for. But I hope that people start to come together and realize that the standard is high on both sides of the fence, non-union or union. I'm sure it's laxed in certain parts of this aspect as it is in West Texas. I hadn't experienced it yet, but it goes back down to whether you're union or non-union. It goes back down to craftsmanship. And there's been times I'll be the first one to say it. I have fucked off some welds and been careless, and I let my shit slide, and I caught repairs, and I got run off for this and that. But I don't have an excuse for it. Laziness is all it is. When you get nonchalant about your career, it starts to backslide. And I've experienced some of that even before I didn't, it's just, I have a tendency at times to been like, fuck it, when I shouldn't have said fuck it. There's another job, which there always was another job, but I shouldn't have been that way. I should have had a little bit better mindset about it. All right. But I just want people to start to hold themselves to a high standard, and hopefully we, get this whole thing turned around with these wages. It's just it drives me crazy that we're just the standard that we're held to, and that we're okay with all this time away from our families, and just work. I mean, construction is working yourself in the dirt, no matter what. All right, I'm off my soapbox. All right, I hope everybody gets out and buys a raffle ticket. I think it's I mean, it's probably the best raffle I've ever heard of for welders, helpers, anybody really. If you wanted some cool swag, I don't, and all that. Uh, so October 24th, Arkansas Elite Welding Academy is the second annual Shield Arc and Showdown. The first round signups are still open for their 3 rounds and my round. Like I said, we got plenty of people coming out there. The 23rd. No music this year. It was kind of just hard to swing people. I'm not saying that everybody thought they was worth a lot of money, but I wanted to focus on just the kids and trying to get that thing going. Joel's still coming out there. 798 will be there. Hoping Pearl Snap Pimps make it. Wobros, Chris. Precision NDT will be out there. ProTech NDT. Going to cook out, be food trucks, be a lot of fun. There's a Q&A still, a lot of moving parts, and I hope to grow this year in and year out. I think changing the direction that I was going into this direction is a huge positive for the industry. I hope that I can go visit more schools in the next year or two, and I hope people continue the journey with the podcast. I got a lot of people I've talked to, but it's one of those things where I procrastinated. But my working year is almost winding down, and I'm going to focus on just podcasting. I talked to a studio in Fort Worth. I want to get in there, do a little bit more professional production. I love doing it from the pickup or from the camper. But I feel like I got some good names coming up with the podcast. So I hope everybody will share it, like it, follow. On this journey we're on here. I'm gonna try to do better, not procrastinate. I get a lot of DMs and all that stuff, and I wish I had an answer for the past, months I've been silent or whatever, but it's really just mental health, It's a hell of a thing, I hope if anybody's ever struggling with some stuff, they can reach out to somebody. You ain't got to go through this crap alone. It's it's hard enough to go through life as it is. So my DMs are always open. I don't know if I check them that day or not, but I always try to circle back to them and at least give you a quick little answer. A lot of them come with do you know where a helper job's at? Here lately, I just been sending them the link to sign up for the 798 because I don't know anything about the non-union. I try to just keep my nose out of it these days. But if I have a buddy looking or something, then I'll pass it on. That's another thing. Found out a lot of who my friends was when I made the swap. I guess they just was acquaintances, which is okay. I got you plenty of jobs. I guess we're just not buddies no more. But that's neither here nor there. Look for more podcasts. Go buy some 2T merch. That stuff's helping with all the moving parts I have with trying to fund my adventures here with the Shield Arc and Showdowns and stuff in the future. And like I said, you can find the sign up at outontheroad.com for Arkansas for the second annual Shield Arc and Showdown and Arkansas Elites welding competition. You can buy the raffle tickets. Like I said, there's pictures and everything on there. I'll get a description up this week. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. I hope that everybody is staying safe out there, and I look forward to releasing some stuff. And yeah, you can find all them details at outontheroad.com. Thank you.